another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. It is the beginning of February, and so it is time again to make another video. As you can see, I have once again moved my location for recording my videos. For those of you that have been following me, you will know we adopted a couple kittens last summer, and everything has been affected because of it. But the giant cat tree that we purchased in the beginning of January has been a huge success. The cat toys that we have brought in for the kittens have been a huge success. Not only do they help entertain and wear out the kittens, but our older cats are actually starting to engage with them as well. And overall, we are finally transitioning to a relatively peaceful home. But when it came time to put everything away and finally have a house that I could move around in, I decided that the cat tree needed to go in the corner that I had been currently recording my videos in. So this morning I thought, what is the solution? Where do I need to be? And all of a sudden I started thinking about rearranging some furniture in a way that I had never tried before. I have recorded videos from this spot before, but in a different chair. And this chair is much more comfortable for me and works better. And I can spin from it if I need to spin. And so I decided, after my husband went to work so that I could mess things up without witnesses, I decided to do a little rearranging and give this a try. And I think I'm pretty happy with it. The big wingback chair is comfortable for me. I like this corner of the house. I've always enjoyed sitting here when I had the big comfy green chair. The bookcase behind me is one that I made when I was fresh out of college, and I had returned home. And of course, being on a very, very tight budget, and back in those days, we didn't have IKEA and Amazon, so I needed a bookcase. So what do? I go to an old shed that was on our property that had fallen down, and I scavenge for some boards, and I make the bookcase. And it is so funny because the shed had been one that I had played in as a child, and it had been, we considered it like a playhouse. It had, the boards that I found written on one of them, a date, I think it was 1913, and it was written that they had seen the cougar, again that night. And so it was just old, I guess in the easiest way to describe it, it was an old little line, just a shed. Well, it was actually, technically it was a house in kind of fashion. Nothing that you would necessarily think of it as a house, but it had a little loft upstairs, and you could see that it was, it could work. I think ranchers would call it a line shack, somewhere that you would overnight if you were out checking on your cattle or something of that nature. So needless to say, they were rough-hewn boards. I have no idea how old that old shack had been, but when I came home from college, I discovered that it had collapsed, and so it was the perfect thing to go and scavenge for some lumber and make myself a bookcase. And I have to laugh because every time we've moved, my husband's had to take time to put it back together because it's structurally sound as long as you don't haul it around anywhere. So this is a favorite little spot of the house for me. It's It's comfortable. I now have my wingback chair. It's the perfect place if I want to just prop my feet up and read. And since the cats have taken over my napping room / spinning room, I wondered if maybe the old green chair could go in there and maybe that would work. We will see. I think this will be actually a good solution. So, from my new-ish location in my house, I wanted to share with you today a bunch of finished objects. I have been busy in January, and while I don't have a lot of knitting to share, I do have a lot of projects to share. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will know I've been doing a lot of machine embroidery, but I also have been working on my latest capelet. But before I show you, and I'm going to start with the knitting first, before I show you my current capelet that I'm working on and the Angora that I've been spinning, I want to very quickly give you an update about this shawl. And I shared this with you on my last vlog, but since then I have allowed it to hang on my dressmaker's mannequin this whole time. And on Monday, I got the opportunity to wear it the first time. And to my great delight, while it hung on the mannequin, it continued to stretch and take its shape. I don't really, with 4 cats in the house, 2 of which are kittens, I don't really have an easy way of blocking something like this anymore. So allowing it to hang on the dressmaker's mannequin allowed it to, in essence, stretch. And I can now say that instead of it coming only to here when I'm wearing it, it comes down to the bottom of my fingertips. And that's what I was hoping for. So I am so pleased. I'm just, I couldn't be happier. It looks lovely. It feels lovely. I feel really good when I wear it, especially out in public. So, from one capelet to my latest one that I'm knitting, and yes, my daughter was teasing me, and she's like, yeah, Mom, you're going to be known as the capelet woman. But it is a joy to knit these. I have been working on this slow going. That's because I have been in the sewing room a lot. But I have been working on this, and I have that much of my first hank left. And I have this hank, which has, I think, had 247 yards on it. This one here was over 400. So when I get to this, when this one is done, and I switch to this, I will double this up with the Angora that I have been spinning. And yes, I come to you without having counted it. But this is a 2-yard hank, just so you know. I'm sure I'll put numbers here telling you how many yards it is. I did want to say, I normally don't, when I spin Angora, I spin it in very small batches. It's a little bit easier to keep it from getting tangled, keep it from getting too fluffed up, because this is definitely something that you want the bloom to occur after you have knit it, rather than when it's in the hank. It's more manageable. So normally I don't do quite this much, but I forgot to weigh out some fiber ahead of time. Plus I wanted to make sure I had plenty so there'd be extra, not run out for this project. But there you have it. There's my Angora. It's only just starting to bloom, which is from my handling it, mainly even today. It has been soaked so that it is nice and clean. It's ready to be knit into this project as soon as I get to that point. So that's my knitting updates. I've been doing a lot more hand quilting, shifting gears. And that brings me to my quilting and embroidery projects. I have been doing some pillows. And I have been enjoying, you can see the hand quilting. So machine embroidery, but in this case, hand quilted. It has been so relaxing. In fact, my son bought me some extra pillows and told me that he would love for me to make him some throw pillows as well. So I've been having a lot of fun. Been trying to get more spring colors and the feeling of spring for coming. Hold on one second. I'm going to pause. Okay, I am back. This little miss was attacking my curtain. Yes, this is Whimsy. And hopefully she will now go. They were napping when I started recording, and I was hoping they'd nap a little bit longer. But alas, she wants to climb up curtains. She's not climbing up the curtain behind. So, as I was saying, I've been working on the throw pillows. I find that the hand quilting of them to be so relaxing. I now understand why my great-grandmother in the last decade or so of her life, she really moved to making a lot of quilted pillows. Because sitting and watching TV or listening to the radio or whatever, hand quilting on a pillow is really easy. I don't have to have a hoop. I don't have to fight with it. I don't have to move it around like a larger quilt would. And so I have really enjoyed doing some hand quilting on some pillows. But I also like doing some machine quilting on pillows. And this one, machine embroidery, and the stippling stitch, all that little squiggly, the stippling stitch on it was done also on the machine. So this pillow was really quick to construct. This one, after I did the embroidery and pieced it together, then I hand quilted it. And again, just enjoying it. Oh, having so much fun. And of course, I'm doing some spring, as you noticed here. Spring themed, because spring will come, but it's February. So of course, you have to have, you have to have some Valentine's themed projects. And all of that stitching is done with the machine embroidery. The design is a little freebie that Creative Kiwi has put out. So I made this very Valentine's-esque pillow. But if you notice here, there's a little mini quilt. My husband and I are celebrating 30 years since we met. So 30 years together. And so that little mini quilt celebrates our 30 years together this month. And the fabric that one's made with is remnant fabric from the first quilt that I made for my husband and I, which is now threadbare and is in Colombia with my daughter. Because when she went to Mongolia, I wanted her to have something to go with her. And it is so threadbare that we started quilting lots of little areas that were threadbare to hold it all together. And then she started appliquing pieces on it and quilting those down. And so little by little, it's getting repaired, replaced, mended. But it was a king-size quilt that I cut all the borders off of it because the borders were so frayed. And so she has this smaller lap section that it goes with her as just a hug from home. And so that fabric is one of the leftover pieces from that first quilt that I made for my husband and I. So that has some symbolism as well. But my husband and I met on a chairlift at a ski resort. So, in honor of our 30 years since we met, I made us in gnome fashion. So, this little one here and I will put a big picture right here to show. It shows little kids in love. And this one shows old gnomes in love. So that is what I did in honor of us having 30 years together. And that one is also hand quilted. This one hasn't been washed to get all of the chalk marking off of it, but I wanted to share that with you as well. Purple. So you might see a lot of purple in the things that I do, especially this time of year. I did make a bright pink. This is not red. This is bright pink. Afghan, that's red. This is bright pink. I did do a bright pink. Oh, yes. And when I showed you this, that is also the same fabric as that. So I've been using this. I've been using up the scraps of that. And I've been putting a lot of purple. And for anybody who has a birthday in February, you will know that while everybody thinks of February as Valentine's and red and pink, the birthstone for February is amethyst, purple. And my husband loved the color purple. And so when I have made our first quilt and all these years, I've accumulated some purples in honor of him loving that color. And I've come to love the color as well because amethyst is my birthstone. And so when I think of Valentine's Day, when I think of February, I see purple, not pink, not red, purple. So of course, when I had to make a pillow to commemorate our 30 years or a mini quilt, it has to be purple. So you may see a lot of purple in the stuff that I made, but I do love red. And this Afghan that I have behind me is one of the ones that I made when I was trying to force my hands to work again after fibromyalgia, really undiagnosed. It had gotten really bad, and it had really stopped my ability to craft. But 2 strands of chunky yarn, or of worsted weight yarn, and a gigantic crochet hook, and I made this Afghan and a number of others for my daughter, my son, one for our bed. And so I do like red. And so when I needed to have, I've been making mug rugs, and I wanted a little caddy to put my mug rugs in. And so I have done that. The teapot design itself is Creative Kiwi. The caddy is mine after some trial and error. But I've been making little mug rugs, and in case you don't know what a mug rug is, it's a coaster. And I use 100% cottons because I want it to absorb, not have it run off. But I've been making all these really fun little mug rugs. And I wanted to have a way of giving them as a gift in a container. And a lot of people will get little tiny wooden crates and different things like that. But I wanted something that was fabric if possible. So that's one of the things that I have put together. So I've done that. So I've shown you 4 pillows. I've shown you 2 shawls, my little quilt. So one last thing before we wrap this up. This is not an easy time of the year for me. No reason to get into it other than I think it's easy to say that this is that for many people, the winter months, January can be a little bleak. It can be a little difficult. And going into February, and it gets cold. But I have baggage around my birthday month as well. And so in January, I really wanted to try to do something to rise above sometimes what feels a little oppressive emotion. So I challenged myself to make something every day, and I did. I started the challenge, I think, a week into January, and I challenged myself to post and share and make every day, and I did. And so these are a couple of the things that I was making. And just a caveat, I am using Creative Kiwi Designs. I am not affiliated to them. They do not promote me to do this. I just decided I had a bunch of their designs. They had a fabulous New Year's sale that I took advantage of, and I just wanted to give them a try. And it was a fun way to meet my challenge. So I have this bunny, and you notice it kind of catches the light because it's heat transfer vinyl. Oh my goodness. Fabulous. It's heat transfer vinyl on craft felt. And so I have this wonderful bunny. It's got tie-tack pins on the back so it can hang from my curtains. I have a mushroom for him. He needs a friend, so we have to have a frog. Frog is all fabric as opposed to the heat transfer vinyl. Heat transfer vinyl. I'm having a blast. A fan. Okay. And I did one other project, and I didn't bring it here. It was more mug rugs, but I'm going to show a picture here. I wanted to challenge myself and try the heat transfer vinyl adhered directly to fabric, but also, which I've done, okay? But I wanted to try it directly as, in essence, adhered to my 100% cotton batting scraps. So I made a little zipper pouch using the heat transfer vinyl. It's adhered to it. It worked fabulously. I love the feel of it. I love the drape of it. I love the way it quilts. I love the fact that it's adhered. It's ironed on, so it doesn't have the issue of perforation. When you're using marine vinyl, you can punch too many holes in it and it can perforate. So I used the heat transfer vinyl, and because it's actually adhered to the fabric, it stays put. I love the texture it gets. I love how I can have shine when I want it. It's been so much fun. And so for this little bag, it's another way to give mug rugs as a gift. A little zipper bag, some coordinating mug rugs. And I've been really thrilled. And I wish I'd have brought it so I could just show it here right in the camera. But I will show the picture of it and share it. I'm really thrilled with it because sometimes we do want something that is a little water resistant. And I love using 100% cotton. I love natural fibers. But there is a time and a place for man-made fibers. And there's a lot of man-made faux leathers and all of these kind of things. But having the heat transfer vinyl attached directly to my fabric, directly to my batting in these cases, it would take very little for me to seal up the seams. And while it would not be watertight, it would be water resistant. And I think we all know of times when we want something that's a little water resistant, but also pretty. So I wanted to share that with you. I made the little zipper pouch. Those things give me brain damage on the embroidery machine. Oh my goodness. There's a part of me that just keeps going, no, I want to go old school. I want to do old school. But I challenge myself. I can do a ton of things on the embroidery machine, but for some reason, the self-lined zipper bags give me brain damage. And you may hear noises in the background. The kittens are awake. They're playing with their toys, and that signals that it's time for me to wrap up. But I have had a good January, and I am challenging myself to have a good February. If I need to make something every day, something maybe silly, this is heat transfer vinyl. It looks like silk, but it's not. It's metallic. And there's a place for this. And truthfully, it actually works as a fan. If I need to make something every day, if I need to spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, some of these projects are slightly longer than that, but most of the projects I've been doing can fit in 30 minutes in the sewing room and be done. If I need to do that every day in order to stay above the emotion of the world today, then I'm going to do that. I owe that to myself. And I hope that you take the time to do that for yourself as well. I'm enjoying unwinding with fiber and fabric, and I hope that you are too. Until my next vlog, I wish you well, and we'll see you hopefully really soon.